There's something just a little dreamlike about that period of Christmas that falls between Christmas Day and most people's return to work or school in the new year. It's a time for some of relaxation, of overindulgence, to bring out from the back of the cupboard fondly remembered party games, or to revisit favourite films from your childhood, or the childhood of your parents, or the childhood of your children. To dust off an ancient bottle of sherry for an ancient dusty relation that leads to them drifting off to sleep in the middle of the afternoon. Of time seeming to slow and still over leftovers in the bottom layer of boxes of chocolates and your 15th meal made up of reheated turkey. There is something a little dreamlike and timeless too about Matthew's story of Magi, wise men, who came from the east to seek a king. Something peaceful and familiar to us. And in our nostalgia for the familiarity of school nativities, where myrrh always seemed to be represented by a box of bath salts, something lulling. Stars shining bright above them, led on by whispering night breezes, at least in the way Lancelot Andrewes and then T.S. Eliot retold this story in A Cold Coming We Had of It. Matthew says that these wise men came to Jerusalem to pay homage to one whose birth was announced by a star rising. And at Herod's court they found knowledge of a prophecy, a dreamy rewording and retelling of old, familiar phrases from the book of the prophet Micah that saw, dimly, a hope for the people Israel coming as a brightness from Bethlehem, from that little town that is by no means least, although it is really just a sleepy backwater, from which shall come forth, with no apparent effort or conflict, a source of celebration, a Messiah. The whole story of the coming of the Magi seems to be a sweet dream of this messianic birth, brought to pass in peace rather than in the reality of the anxiety and the effort that really precede a birth. And then of the peaceful, joyful worship of a long-promised king underneath the star, still shining bright above them. What, I wonder, did Matthew think that the Magi had dreamed of? What did he think had led them, apart from a star, to seek in their somnambulant journey the child who had been born King of the Jews, someone to whom gold and frankincense and myrrh might be appropriate gifts? And what did Matthew think that Herod dreamed of when he imagined the child born King of the Jews? What did he think that that sly old fox believed about the half-remembered prophecies and hopes of the Jewish people he ruled? Well, the sweet dreams of the Magi, whatever they had been, did not survive the coming of the new dawn. That was, first, the coming of joy for the Magi, of the overwhelming joy of completing their journey that had started when they set out toward a star that promised a king, and which ended in the presence of a small child, in the presence of a joy that simply overwhelmed them, and which ended in another dream too, a dream that warned them not to return to Herod. For their journey also ended with a realization of the brutality of power and its exercise within a brutal world. The peaceful dreaminess of this story is cut through, in just the next verse after our reading, by a new nightmare of Herodian murder. For it is then revealed that Herod's dream was that he might destroy the Messiah, and his attempt to wipe out the child of Bethlehem was by the killing of all the young children of Bethlehem. Christmas, even at its most peaceful and familiar and dreamlike, begins to reveal a pattern of pain within the world that is exposed by and is accused by the birth of Christ. And beyond all their joy and their dream of Herod, it is the cross on which Christ was killed that therefore stands as the final shocking conclusion to the star-led Magi's sleepwalk. Christmas is a time for some of exhaustion and tears, of bankruptcy, of trauma remembered instead of joys, of drinking to numb memories and fears, of people who cry themselves to sleep, of hunger, of bereavement. Christmas is a time when our sweet dreams are changed to mourning, when the songs we would like to sing become a lullaby, like the Coventry Carol, to lost opportunities and hopes and even lives. On our own journeys and in our own dreams, do we allow sweetness to lull us, to make us so sleepy and comfortable and dependent that we forget both the joy and the brutality, the sheer complexity of the world in which we encounter Christ? And having come to the place where we discover him, do we think of his story as just a sweet dream, something that is nostalgic and timeless and safe? Or shall we now awake to know reality and to know its brutality and to know that yet into this place the Messiah has still been born?